Thrust into action, destined for greatness. We are the Spy-Fi guys, and this is Age of Heroes. Welcome back to the Spy-Fi guys, where we cover spy fact, spy fiction, and everything in between. I'm Zach.
And I'm Christian. And today we'll be covering the 2011 film Age of Heroes, starring Sean Bean. Have we done a Sean Bean film before?
I don't think so. He's in a lot of stuff. And I was really glad to see him, even though I had never heard of this movie before, and I would wager most of our audience has not.
Yeah, I'd heard of this film, and I had attempted to watch it before, but I think I attempted to watch it when it was I was really tired, so I fell asleep during it the first time, so I don't remember anything.
We'll never let it be said that we only do the big blockbuster movies. Okay, we appreciate the indie direct-to-video streaming ones as well.
Well, this actually got a theatrical release. I don't know how widespread of a theatrical release it is, but it was released theatrically.
I feel like a lot of these, I usually at least remember the trailer. Like Bridge of Spies, I didn't see it, but I remembered watching the trailer.
Bridge of Spies was like a huge movie.
Mm-hmm. Whereas this is more...
This was smaller, yeah.
Yes, much smaller.
And I think it's in the running for one of our shortest films, at running just about 90 minutes.
Well, the movie critic Leonard Maltin said that every movie can have a half an hour cut out of it, no matter what kind of movie it is. So I usually appreciate the short running time, and yet this one even felt like it was too long. I felt like this one could have had stuff cut out of it too.
All right, well, save it for our review. So today's film, Age of Heroes, is based on Ian Fleming's 30 Assault Unit, which, if you remember back to our first two episodes, we covered the BBC miniseries Fleming, and it goes over a bit of the creation of 30 Assault Unit, although the tone is very, very different.
Well, I remember being disappointed at the time that we didn't actually get to see them fight, because they were a lot of really colorful characters. And they especially didn't seem to like Fleming very much.
Yeah, so do you want to get into it?
Sure. So
here is the description, or the synopsis from IMDb. The true story of the formation of Ian Fleming's 30 Commando Unit, a precursor for the elite forces in the UK. I like the opening credits with the radar. That was nice. Nice touch.
The radar was cool. The music was really good.
But you know...
What's that?
You know what I noticed was missing? Based on a true story or anything like that?
Yeah, I think this time they realized that would be too far.
So we start off in France, 1940. There's a bunch of soldiers, a unit running away. Everyone else stops behind a log for cover.
So I should say they're not running away. They're retreating. They're advancing.
Okay, yeah. They're retreating, not running away. They're
towards future victory.
Yeah. They have orders to go to Dunkirk.
Yes.
Now, is this the Dunkirk incident? The Battle of Dunkirk?
Yep. So May 1940, of course, is very early in the war. So this is indeed the rescue, the miracle at Dunkirk. That's what they're talking about.
Okay, just wanted to make sure, because I know of Dunkirk. I've seen Dunkirk. I have not seen the companion piece from what's that? The Darkest Hour, which is about Churchill deciding what to do about Dunkirk.
Oh, I saw that, The Darkest Hour. I know that's not what we're here to talk about. So Dunkirk does factor into it, but it's not really what the movie's about. It's more like him trying to convince everybody to go to war with Nazi Germany at all.
Okay, well, that is on my watch list. But
you know what's considered to be the best movie about Dunkirk? Atonement.
Oh?
Yes, like the romance movie.
Huh.
So there's a part where they're in Dunkirk and it's like trucks and equipment and everything's like chaos and people are running all over the place. And from my understanding, that is much more what it was actually like than Christopher Nolan's lines of guys standing on the beach, politely waiting to go.
Well, anyway, so they're supposed to get to Dunkirk. Mm-hmm. So we have the leader of this little unit whose name is Bob Rains.
Yes, and there's all sorts of hokey dialogue in this part. There's like two panicky soldiers who are like, "We're gonna die, Sarge. We're gonna die." He's like, "Don't you worry. We'll be back in the pubs drinking beer before you know it. Now keep fighting."
So they escape from that first patrol. They end up lost, and it's starting to get dark, and they run into another group of British soldiers.
Yes.
And this other unit is trying to ambush the Nazi soldiers, and the guy in charge is trying to give them orders. They contradict their orders to go to Dunkirk.
Mm-hmm. He says, we're going to stay and fight. We might even be able to ambush them. And our heroes, including Rains, are like, what? No way. But then they're also being ordered.
We have orders to go back. Right. Yeah.
This is the classic military drama that we see in movies all the time.
But yeah, so as Rains and his unit are trying to leave to go to Dunkirk, the other soldiers get their guns up at them. I enjoyed that Rains headbutts the other officer.
Yeah, that was crazy. And then when they all pulled guns at each other, I thought they were all going to like shoot each other or something. But then the scene just kind of ends.
Yeah, they all get arrested, basically.
Mm-hmm. Well, hey, better to be arrested than killed in a stupid fight that...
So this leads me to that question of basically so after also getting arrested, they were also lucky enough to be some of the people to actually get out of Dunkirk.
Yeah.
All right, okay.
I mean, assuming that any of this is true, I think they're probably like, this is bad, but we're going to deal with it later. Because we're sort of in a desperate situation right now.
So... next we move to Whitehall, which is the equivalent of like Capitol Hill or like that sort of area, DC area, where basically all your government and apparently all your intelligence agencies are all out of Whitehall in London.
Yep.
And so we're at the Naval Intelligence Building, and we see Sean Bean, Major Jones, arriving.
Major Jack Jones.
Jones. Who names their...
That's his name. And I also liked at this point, someone says that one of the soldiers, maybe it's Sean Bean, was the son of a famous botanist.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, boy, the times really are different that you can get famous by being a botanist in the 1940s.
So we have Major Jones going into a meeting with Lieutenant Mortensen, who is a U.S. Marine, Commander Fleming, played by James Darcy, who also played, what's-his-face, Jarvis in the Agent Carter series and in Avengers Endgame.
Yeah, he is all over the place. And speaking of actors, last night I watched a little movie called John Carter.
Uh-huh.
Which is not good. It wasn't that bad. But the leader of one of the tribes in it was Carl from Munich.
Oh.
Yeah, that guy Carl, who we see all over the place.
Yeah. Look at that.
Right, so they're here to talk about Operation Grendel.
Yes.
As in Hansel and Gretel.
No?
As
in Grendel, the monster in Beowulf.
Okay. Wait, is Hansel and Gretel? Not Grendel.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you for the correction.
But yes, Operation Grendel is all about range and direction finding, basically radar.
Mm-hmm.
So apparently Luftwaffe, at this point in the war, have radio beams they're using to guide their planes, whereas Brits are still using compass and stars to for direction. So what they're going to do is infiltrate an RDF research station, cause havoc, and bring back the intelligence.
Right. While also knocking out the radar in Norway, which is where it's based.
Yeah.
We also get a line from somebody, it might have been Fleming, who says, "Officially, you won't exist," which is so. A lot of the dialogue in this movie is like so stereotypical, and this is one example of that.
Yeah, but so hey, since this is the first appearance of Fleming, what do you think of this version of Fleming? He's much more toned down.
Yeah, toned down is one way to put it. I would also describe him as wet blanket, cardboard, nothing.
Oh, ouch! I mean, I feel like this is probably truer to life than the Dominic Cooper version. I mean, I know Fleming was a cad and a bit of a playboy, but when it came to actually doing his job, he was deadly serious about it.
Well, real life is boring. Okay, sorry. Listen, people are watching this movie. It's sort of like the Fleming BBC series. You're tuning in because you like Fleming, so give us Fleming, okay? Give us what we want. We know we want it. Have him with a martini. Have him with this attractive woman. Come on, that's who he is. I don't care if it's real. Nothing in this movie is real.
So Jones will be in charge. He's going to get an 8-man team. They only have 6 weeks to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the men who Jones wants is in prison. Who is it?
He has some kind of crazy name like Wainwright or something. Lightbright?
Breitling.
Yeah. So on his way there, we meet Sean Bean's pregnant wife.
Is this her only scene?
Yes, and I hated this scene. So, do you watch Chernobyl on HBO?
I did not, no.
Okay. I watched it and I listened to the podcast about it with Peter Sagal and the creator of the show.
All right.
So there's a main character in it, a head scientist named Lanasov. And in real life, he had a wife and kids. But the creator of the show said, we're going to leave the wife and kids out of the series. And the reason why is because we didn't want to have this stereotype of the courageous hero off by himself, worried about his sort of nagging wife and kids at home. So they just pretend like they didn't exist.
All right.
This movie jumps into that stereotype completely.
Yeah, so she's pregnant, and they have an argument about like him going, because he was apparently supposed to be just being an instructor, but instead he's going operational again, which is another trope, I feel like.
Yes, it is. But it also kind of works because I understand why she's so upset.
Yeah.
It'd be one thing if he was like, I'm a soldier, I'm going to go to war. And she's like, what? It's kind of like, well, you knew what you signed up for when you married a soldier.
Mm-hmm. And then another thing we found out is that, so in the media as well was Holbrook, who seems to be Fleming's assistant.
Mm-hmm.
And she and Mortensen are a couple.
Yes. Will that be relevant to the overall plot of the movie?
Very, very, very slightly, but not really. But yeah, so Jones makes his way to Dashwood Military Prison, where they're one of the Red Hats, as they're known. I guess that's military police.
Yeah, they even had the military police armband on.
Are shouting at the soldier prisoners, and Rains is there. And they're going through some pretty grueling training.
Well, I like the insults from, he's not a drill sergeant. This isn't Full Metal Jacket. That comes later. But I like when he yells, you're a bloody disgrace. And then later he says, get up, you malignant maggot. Like, I know that maggot is considered to be like the stereotype of what drill instructors say. But when you add malignant to it, it takes on a whole new life.
Yeah, I thought those were pretty good. And so we meet Breitling here.
Mm-hmm.
And Breitling seems to be in a bad way. He's not doing too well.
Yeah, eccentric would be kind of the nicest way to describe him.
And we find out that he was a commando. So this is the guy who Jones is coming to pick up.
Mm-hmm.
And when Jones comes to pick them up, he sees how badly that Breitling's being treated. And as like Breitling collapses as they're like making him do something, Rains comes over and is trying to help him, and Rains asks Jones to take him with him, but Jones refuses. Commandos are like a rare breed, and if you're right, when you get out, come find us.
However long that's gonna be.
And Rains takes matters into his own hands and starts a fight, pulls a gun from one of the MPs, or was it from the MPs or was it from Jones? I couldn't quite tell.
It wasn't from Jones, it was from one of the MPs, because that's something that bothers me, which is, they also did this in Titans, where you have a prison guard walking in the middle of a bunch of convicts with a gun. It's like, I thought that was Rule 101 about being a prison guard, is you don't have a gun. But whatever.
Well, this is the military police, so it's military prison, so maybe it's different.
Okay.
Anyway, so he pulls the gun, points it at Jones, and threatens him, saying, you're going to get in the car and drive me out of here.
Right. So he takes him hostage. They're on their way out. There's a quote here where he says, don't try anything silly, which I thought was hilarious.
And it turns out Rains thought that this was like a test. He said, you said when I get out, come find you. I'm out. I found you. You winked at me.
No, that's not it. That's not it.
What was it?
So Breitling said, I have a plan to get us out.
That's right.
Rains thought that was the plan, that they wanted him to do it, which is also really funny. Sean Bean is like, what are you, bloody stupid?
Yeah.
But somehow he gets away with it because it's a movie.
He says that, if Jones tells him that if Rains doesn't pass any part of training, he'll be sent back to prison.
Yeah, I would hope so.
Yeah. So we go to a training camp in Scotland, and here's where we get our two drill instructors, Gray and Mac. And I enjoyed that they were very Scottish.
Mac even had the Scottish hat with like the pom pom on the top.
Was he wearing a kilt? I like in
I
my
don't think
mind,
he was.
he
I
was
don't think he
wearing a
was.
kilt.
He wasn't. Just the hat, but I wish he was. This scene is also the first of our really good scenery. This movie has a lot of good scenery, and this is one of them.
So there's a I think I don't know if it was BBC, but there is a miniseries, World War II miniseries called, what was it called? Sword of Honor, starring Daniel Craig. Or at one part he's a commando, and he's going to train in the Scottish Highlands too. I'm like, oh, so I guess this was just a thing that like the commandos trained in the Scottish Highlands and doing a lot of the same kind of training too.
Yeah, I guess they're not. There's not much else going on up there, so.
I really enjoyed Mac and Gray as the very, very Scottish drill sergeants. Like, you just combine the Scottish shouting and drill sergeant, and it's a perfect combination.
This whole scene was really good. I like boot camp scenes in military movies, and not just Full Metal Jacket.
So there was a reference to Jesse Owens, which reminded me of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
Okay.
Oh wait. Oh.
Wait, which part in Last Crusade?
This is a weird loophole, not loophole, a weird wormhole I'm going to go down. But you know the scene where Indy is dressed up as a Scottish lord, and the butler says, "If you are a Scottish lord, then I am Mickey Mouse."
No, I don't remember that at all.
What? It's when Harrison Ford's doing this ridiculously over the top Scottish accent.
Well, maybe I should watch it again.
Yeah. Anyway, so if you watched his lips, Butler is not saying Mickey Mouse. He's saying Jesse Owens. And the line was supposed to be Jesse Owens, but in tests, they've realized that no one remembered who Jesse Owens was.
Well, that is so sad.
Yeah.
And yet so typical, which is also so sad. So getting back to the movie. So in this montage, they all use Thompson submachine guns.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if it's a mistake, but I don't think the British used that kind of gun in World War II. I thought it was just Americans.
Were those Thompsons?
Yeah, I looked them up on the Internet Movie Firearm database to make sure.
Yeah.
I mean, they're very distinctive looking.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I wanted to confirm.
Yeah. Okay, interesting. I did not know that. So they go for your typical boot camp stuff. Go for a run with all your kit. Climb, and they do some climbing, some boxing, shooting with explosives.
And more great scenery. Yeah. And there's one part that I thought was hilarious where in between throwing grenades and shooting guns, it shows like the camera's like in a stream bed, and then one of the guys like hops over it. It's like a dainty little hop. I was like, really?
So after one of their runs, they all get in line, and Jones sneaks up on one of them with...
Oh, God, he's pulling out a knife. Oh, my God, he has a knife.
I do.
There's one in every podcast, the knife guy.
Yeah, so actually I have one of it's a Fairbairn Sykes Commando knife. I am unfortunately not well versed in using it, but
I'm scared enough already, so it's just as well. Why do you have that?
Because it's James Bond. It is James Bond's preferred knife.
Okay.
And I'm a big James Bond fan, and at a certain time in my life, I was collecting, knives. Not very many, and I was like, I gotta have a Fairbairn Sykes.
If I got you a Walther for your birthday, you wouldn't want it then?
A
real lot of paperwork.
Yeah, no. I don't think I would actually want to have an actual firearm in the house now.
Okay, probably for the best. So they trained them in the use of that blah-de-blah commando knife.
Yeah.
With MP40s, the classic German machine gun, and a Luger, and see how
we skipped a part. We did. So they're all handing it this knife. I want to stick with the knife for a little bit.
As I see what you did there, stick with the knife.
That was unintentional. So the knife was designed with these commandos in mind, close quarter combat, and so they I forget if it was Mac or Gray. He's handing out the knives to each of the men, and Rains is last, and he does not get a knife.
Do you think that's because they're like, well, you're only here because we took pity on you?
Well, and also because he hasn't proven himself yet.
Right.
But yeah, and then we get to that scene where they're trying out all the different Nazi weapons because they need to be familiar in how to use them if, say, for example, they get captured or they lose their weapon and that's all they have.
Yes. So I like the part where they're like, "Show us how to shoot." So this one guy goes up and he shoots,
Mm-hmm.
and they're like, "Wait, who taught you how to shoot like that?" He says,
You
"You,
did.
Sarge." And then all of his friends start making fun of him. They're like, "You, Sarge."
And then Rains goes up to shoot, and he shoots. I know, like it caught my eye immediately that he started shooting left-handed.
Mm-hmm.
And so when he's shooting, he he gets right around the edges and not dead center of mass that how you want it.
Right.
And then there again, I don't remember. It's great. One of the Scottish drill sergeants is like, "Wow, that's terrible. If we need someone to shoot the broadside of a barn, we'll call you."
See, more stereotypical dialogue. Couldn't have come up with some other euphemism for that he's a bit not good at shooting.
And then Rains pulls a Dread Pirate Roberts and says, "You should know something. I'm not left-handed." Basically.
Tink, tink, tink. Yep.
So he goes, shoots with his right hand and gets center of mass and headshot on the target. And then they ask him, "Where do you learn to shoot?"
And he says,
"Cowboy movies."
And then in response they start like torturing him, which I thought was very uncalled for.
I mean, your drill sergeant asks you a question, you give a straight answer. You don't try to show off.
Well, I would agree, except that all of his buddies were just making fun of that other guy like literally 10 seconds earlier.
Maybe, but I mean, he gave the right answer though. That's what you're supposed to say. If you doesn't matter if your buddies are making fun of you, they should. It's the drill sergeant is who you're reporting to. There's a difference.
So I thought the drill sergeant was just trying to be funny as well when he asked where'd you learn to shoot like that, because obviously you learned to shoot in the military. Where else are you going to learn to do it?
But yeah, so they Rains as punishment, he has to go for a run with his gun held above his head.
Yeah,
and he's there holding it above his head, standing, and Jones comes by and asks him, "What do you think we're trying to teach you here? I'm trying to teach you discipline, which you clearly lack."
Yeah.
Again, another stereotype.
Oh yeah, but it's not unreasonable given that the 30 commandos were like ex-prisoners and stuff. Except the BBC miniseries implied there's more than just one guy who was an ex-prisoner.
Yeah.
So then they say the warden is coming to send you back, or to bring you back to the military prison. You're out of here. He's like, "No, don't send me back."
Yeah, and Jones is gonna give Rains one more chance and says that your performance over the next few days is gonna determine basically the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm.
And then he goes back, and once Jones leaves, he goes back to holding his gun above his head, and then we go to an intel briefing.
Right. Hosted by Fleming.
Yes, the Fleming's there, and there's also a flight sergeant there.
Mm-hmm.
And Fleming tells Rains apparently the prison wants him back, and was that Jones would probably be court-martialed for what he pulled off, but since this is war, we're gonna get away with it, basically.
As usual. So it's like the same scene from before, same conversation again. But whatever.
And yeah, apparently Jones convinced Fleming that he could stay on the mission.
So Fleming explains their mission is to destroy a radar tower and then to get radio direction flyer or RDF kits.
Yeah. And he says that you guys are first of a new breed, a smash and grab unit working behind enemy lines.
Mm-hmm. There's also a part where he asked the Air Force guy, he's probably not Air Force, but I call him Air Force guy, to explain how radar works. And the Air Force guy starts, and then they say, "In English, please," which is the most cliched line in a movie full of cliches. Yep. There's something about a cliche that warms my heart when it actually shows up.
Yeah. So the flight sergeant's name is Rollright, and so him and his unit have been developing something to jam the RDF, the radar. But apparently the Nazis have come up with an anti-jamming device.
Mm-hmm.
And so to get all the intel on that, Rollright's going to come with them, and they'll also work with an SOE agent, Beowulf, who is over there.
They also say, what's our opposition looking like? They say unlikely to be more than a platoon. platoon. The platoon is like 12 guys. So I was like, there's no way that's correct. Fleming also tells, is it Rains or is it someone else that he'll kill
he tells Jones
to kill the Air Force guy if necessary.
Yeah, so basically he can't be left behind because he knows too much. Also, he says that Agent Beowulf has gone dark and they haven't been able to reach him.
Right. But they're like, don't worry about it. We're just going to keep going.
And so
okay.
Jones gives Rains order to babysit Rollright. Jones gives the order that if Rollright looks like he's going to be captured or is captured, he needs to shoot him.
Yep.
And then gives Rains his commando knife.
Hey. Yeah. So it's like delegating the responsibility of killing the Air Force guy to one of his henchmen, one of his lower ranked guys. That's great.
And so they have a nice. I love these scenes where they go over what the plan's going to be. And like go through everything for the audience, pretty much for the audience, because by this point it's like the day before the mission. You should already know what your plan is.
Have you seen the movie Act of Valor? Do you know what it is?
I feel like I fell asleep during it.
You seem to fall asleep during a lot of movies, but it was famous at the time because actors in it were real life Navy SEALs and not professional actors.
Okay, maybe I've not seen this one. All right.
So it was like an adequate movie. It's better than this one. But one of the points that they make in it is that in real life, because the movie kind of acts like real life, is they don't have arguments. The soldiers don't have arguments among one another. So like, in the beginning of the movie, that one guy was like, I'm ordering you to attack. And then they all get into an argument. No. They'd be like, I'm ordering you to attack. And they'd be like, okay. The reason why I think of it is they have a similar scene where they plan what they're going to do. And then they just go and do it.
Of course. Anytime you have a scene like this where they show you exactly what the plan's going to be, it's never how it's going to be. I mean, what's that quote? No plan survives first contact with the enemy.
Yeah, I think we talked about that on this podcast before, but it remains true. Unless it's like a Ocean's 11 movie where they explain the plan and then the plan goes wrong, but it was supposed to go wrong. So it actually does all go according to plan.
Except we don't know the plan.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, so they're leaving the next night, and it's going to be an aerial drop from a plane. And as they're all on the plane, and they have 15 minutes before their drop zone, and the plane gets all shut up. And this reminded me of Captain America, the first Captain America movie, where it's when Howard Stark is flying him cap over, and like they get close, but not exactly where they need to go. But the plane gets shot up, so they have to turn back.
Did you see the movie Overlord?
No.
It's a great movie.
I'm not into zombies.
It was fantastic. They weren't zombies. They were more like monsters. But I don't blame you for thinking that, because they effectively were a zombie.
Okay. No, is there a scene like this?
Yeah, that's like the whole opening of the movie. I mean, it's sort of like helicopters in the beginning of video games, where if a video game starts around a helicopter, that helicopter is not making a safe landing.
But yeah, so as the plane gets shot up, one of the soldiers is like dies killed, there. Yeah. So we're down to 7 soldiers. Oh, hold on. Was it 8 including Jones or not including Jones?
I definitely did not pay close enough attention.
Okay, I did not either. I probably should have had a running tally of how many people get killed.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
So there's a really good shot of the plane on fire. That effect looked really good. Yeah. But then Rains just wakes up on the ground.
He seems to have these sort of things where like he like will be out of it, and like his body will start doing something, but he doesn't really remember it because it happens a little later.
He has a great ability to go unconscious when something expensive to film is about to happen. So he wakes up on the ground, and Germans are looking for them.
Yep, 2 Nazis have Rollright, the flight sergeant, and so Rains is actually getting ready to shoot him. Because he was going to shoot.
Oh, I think he was going to shoot Rollright.
I think so, because he has that order in his head. Yeah.
Yeah, but he's pointing his gun at them. I thought he was going to shoot the Germans.
I mean, it's vague. Maybe it's supposed to be all right. We're not sure what he's going to do. Which, well, we aren't, but not because of good filmmaking.
Yeah, they could have afforded to make that a little bit clearer, but whatever.
As he's getting ready to shoot, who knows who he's going to shoot? 2 commandos come up and take out the Nazis with their knives.
Stealth kills. As we say in the video game world. Yes.
And so we get a report, so all of commandos meet up. We get a report that one of the men died of a broken neck. So I think that's 2 soldiers down now.
Yep. But then off they go, and we get some really good Norwegian scenery. That was awesome.
So because they bailed out 15 minutes too early, they are on the wrong side of this big frozen over lake. So they have to cross that lake or get around the lake.
Mm-hmm.
And as they're moving, we cut to this group of Nazis, not just Nazis, SS agents who are chasing them, and they found the 2 dead soldiers.
Right. So this is good. It establishes there's a threat. The threat will keep chasing them throughout the movie.
Yeah.
That's good filmmaking.
And so they're going to go rendezvous with Agent Beowulf.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that they have a code phrase. It's not a really code phrase that makes sense. It's a wartime code phrase. It's not necessarily like a code phrase where it can be dropped into actual conversation.
No, it's not spies. It's not the spotted cuckoo bird is flying backwards. It's a cold day for pontooning. It's not like that.
I like those.
No, this is more like in Band of Brothers when they say flash, thunder.
All right. So the code, and it took me until this point to remember. Oh wait, Beowulf, Grendel. Oh, that makes sense together.
Right. They got a theme and they're sticking to it.
Yeah.
The British Army knows that they're branding.
So the code phrase, the soldiers will say Grendel, and Beowulf is supposed to say to them Viking.
Mm-hmm.
And so they see a skier in the distance, and they're not sure who that person is. So they track them to a shack,
mm-hmm.
and inside the shack they meet a person who claims to be Agent Beowulf. They give the code phrase after a lot of pointing and shooting at each other, like not pointing the guns at each other, not
pointing guns. Mm-hmm.
And we find that Beowulf is a girl. Her name is Jensen.
Yes. And how many freaking movies have we seen where we're expecting a spy to be a guy and it's some hot woman?
To be fair, SOE did employ women and sent them behind enemy lines.
Yes, I know. The point I'm making is that it is a cliche among so many cliches.
Fair. But this one has precedent, real precedent.
Okay, I'm glad there's precedent. So I wanted to pause for a moment and talk to you about something that I've been thinking about involving Fleming. Not just Fleming, but a man who you may be familiar with named Clive Cussler.
Vaguely familiar. He's a novelist.
Okay. He is very similar to Fleming, in my opinion. Okay? So, he's a novelist. As far as I'm aware, he was not a spy or did any military service.
Okay.
But he may have been in the Navy. Okay, whatever. So he writes a bunch of series of books with a obvious self-insert hero who is really good at all sorts of different things. And of course, women love him. And he's a fighter and an adventurer. And Clive Cussler also works in his love of ships and marine stuff and archaeology. So my question is, and I don't really expect you to answer it, I'm just sort of asking the universe, why does Ian Fleming get to be well respected while Clive Cussler is like considered a trash novelist?
Because how many Clive Cussler movies do you know?
There's one, and it's called Sahara.
You mean the Matthew McConaughey movie?
Yeah, that is what I mean.
That's why. Wait.
That can't be true. Because the James Bond books were successful before any of the movies, right?
They were successful, yes. And, yeah. Actually, I chalk it up to JFK.
Well, actually, you may be right about the movies, because Clive Cussler's books are really well sold, but they were not able to make the jump into movies.
So the reason Bond and Fleming has survived to this day is because of the movies.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you think about other, like, there are some more famous spy books out there, like, you know, your Le Carres and whatnot, and those have also survived partially because of the movies.
Mm-hmm.
So most people know Bond because of the movies, and then because of the movies, they know that he was. Some people know that he was, you know, he was a book first, and not, you know, started with the movies. So that's why it's survived through the years. And the fact that Clive Cussler's at least one movie was a very terrible film.
Yeah, it probably wasn't the best choice of his books to adapt. Okay, that's all. Okay. Rant over. Right. I just hope someday Clive Cussler will get the credit he may or may not deserve.
So, also, how long were Clive Cussler books?
How long are they?
Yeah,
They're longer than James Bond books, but not
exactly.
super long. They're not like Leon Uris or
All
James
right. Well,
Michener
I mean, like
books.
your average Fleming novel is like 200 pages.
They're longer than that.
Okay, so the fact that they're punchy, they're quick, you can read them over a plane ride. That's the other thing.
Okay, fair enough. All right, so back to Age of Heroes.
All
So,
right, all
so
right.
Jensen explains there's SS in the area, and they come up with a new plan of attack on the target.
Yeah, and apparently the commandos lost a bunch of kit when they went down, so they don't have a radio. So when they need Jensen to send a message to Fleming and tell them, he's up there, saying that they're on the other side of the lake, that there's SS in the area, and that they're down 2 men.
Right. It's effectively a status update.
Yeah.
And Jensen also says, I'm going to extract with you. And Joan says, why? And she just says, orders, which I thought was hilarious. It's like, well, what'd you expect? She just kind of felt like it.
Yep. So Fleming gets the message. He tells them to proceed, even though, the odds have not turned in their favor.
Right? The odds were already long.
Yeah.
Joan says to somebody that he doesn't trust Jensen.
Yep. I think it was to Mortensen. I may be making that name up. What's his name? The U.S. Marine who's
he actually went
Norwegian-born.
with them?
Yeah, he's one of them.
Oh, okay.
That's why you have the whole thing about them being a couple, because now the Fleming's assistant Holbrook is worried about him.
Oh, it's like Jones's wife back home.
Exactly. Okay. Except we actually see Holbrook a few more times.
So Joan says, well, she betrays her, I'll kill her myself. Which is another cliche line that I love.
I feel like if we wanted to do this in editing, it would be hilarious if each time we mention a cliche, we just have a little ding.
Yeah. There are a lot of them. It sort of depends on what you consider to be a cliche.
Yeah.
So they go to the farm. There's a confrontation with Jensen when they get there.
Yeah, the farmer is upset that Jensen brought the commandos there because the SS is following them. And also, SS found the little shack where they had met, and they found Jensen's skis. So again, they're just like one step behind.
Yeah, exactly.
While they're in the farm, Steiner, is Steiner his first name, I guess. Mortensen. Steiner Mortensen. What a name.
Yeah, seriously.
I'm just gonna call him Steiner because I can actually remember Steiner.
Mm-hmm.
But Steiner threatens Jensen because he doesn't think that she's really Beowulf, and reveals that yes, she isn't Beowulf, and the real Beowulf, basically, they almost captured him and he went on the run, and Jensen kept transmitting as Beowulf.
Which is very nice of her.
Well, I think it's mainly because the real Beowulf told her that she would bring them to London. Or they would bring her to London, rather.
So, yeah, it's like partially the mission, but also she's self-interested because she can get out.
Yeah.
So the SS show up at the farm.
This scene.
Is this incredibly brutal, ugly scene.
Yes.
Which does not really fit the tone of the rest of the movie.
Does not. I mean, not that the rest of the movie is a really happy one, but this is just, like, brutal. So, they threaten the family. The farmer reveals that they helped them. The lead SS officer's like, get together. We're going to take a family photo. And has this camera running with film. And he's, like, trying to get, telling him to smile. Very creepy and just totally disturbing, having him smile and then shoots one of the family members and then has them all line up and then guns them all down.
Except he doesn't just gun them down, because in the scene where they're gunned down, they're all bloody and beat up. So in between that, they must have been beaten up. Yeah.
And then after he has his soldiers gunned down, he shoots each one of them, sometimes multiple times. And it was like, that is unnecessary. We don't need to see that in this movie.
It's totally unnecessary because we already know that the Nazis and especially the SS are bad. Okay.
I mean, they could have just left it with, actually, it would have been better if, they line them up and then you see the shot of, the guns firing, and we don't need to see their bodies bloodied and everything. Cut it before that and just leave it like that. Yeah.
I think that's what most other movies probably would have done. It's what we call kicking the dog. Which we don't need because we know the bad guys are bad.
Yeah.
So Sean Bean, aka Jones, convinced Jensen to leave before the fight.
What he says to her is that she needs to go and radio London to get extraction coordinates. and then to get on the sub. So wait, so a sub? Where's the sub going to come from?
The water.
I mean, I guess what one. Like, how are they gonna where? What are they near? I don't know which part of Norway they are. So,
Dude, I don't know, the coast. The point is, they're gonna go to a place and meet the sub. That's totally normal. It happens in a lot. I was reading a book. I've been reading a book about D-Day, and there's parts where they use subs to get commandos to like go onto the beaches and like test the water and test the sand and stuff. It was pretty sweet.
I'm not that, other than what I've seen in The Hunt for Red October, not that familiar with the uses of subs. I just always assumed it's more for combat and not necessarily for troop transport.
Well, my understanding is that the sub has dinghies, and then they go from the dinghy to the land.
Okay, all right, that makes complete sense.
Yeah.
Like I said, I have no real knowledge about it, so it just didn't quite read right to me. Also, they keep saying RV, and it took me of one, so it's short for rendezvous.
Yes, but I like to imagine there's like a camper van sitting in the middle of the Norwegian forest.
I mean, that's what I thought about it first. Like, wait, what is this RV? They keep talking. No, it's a rendezvous point.
Especially because tons of movies are like, "I'll see you at the RV," and they mean like actual RV.
But yeah, so they go to infiltrate the base in two teams. One team is going to be setting charges at the tower. The other team's grabbing the intel. So I like this, because they basically they start some small explosions to cause a distraction, which draws all the soldiers over there, and then Rollright, Rains, and Jones get inside to search for the intel.
Yep. I mean, it's classic Sun Tzu, and it works really well, and it felt very real. I appreciate it. It's not like these. It's not like movies like The Princess Bride, where they're like, we're gonna go light something on fire, and then in the confusion, we'll do everything we gotta do.
Yeah. So the other team is drawing all their fire, and they blow up the tower, and Rollright gets what he needs. So he's basically a treasure trove of intel.
Yeah, he says a treasure house of enemy secrets. But then in this scene, they run in and then they just like punch the Germans in the face. I'm like, why didn't they just?
Well, I missed that. I don't know. Maybe... Are you sure they punch him and they didn't punch while also stabbing?
No.
Okay, I don't know.
Or they might have hit him with their Tom rifle butts, but the point is they definitely didn't shoot them. And I'm like, maybe it's because they didn't want to shoot all the electronics.
Probably, and also because they wanted to be quiet.
Yeah. Oh, that's probably a better reason.
And then so Rollright asks Jones for his commando knife, so he can like cut some of the wires loose and put it in his bag. And as they're leaving to get out, Rollright gets attacked, and he still has the knife. So the Nazi tackles him, and he stabs him a bunch of the times in the side with the knife.
Jeez. Yep.
It's brutal.
It's like hardcore violence from, the kind of nerdy Air Force guy. Meanwhile, we have a couple of our commandos with a heavy machine gun, just like mowing down Germans as they run around a corner like it's an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie.
Yeah, so Fleming gets word from the team via Jensen, and says that the tower's destroyed, but they're going to miss their RV.
No, not the RV. It costs a lot of money.
He gets on the phone with the SOE, telling them, all right, we need another extraction. It's like, we've already sent a sub, we can't do another one. And so he tries to argue them, but there's to no avail. So he tells them to make their way to Sweden. Also, we find out that Jones's wife has given birth to a daughter.
Well, so they didn't totally forget about her. That's nice.
Yeah, but we don't see her.
I mean, the audience certainly forgot about her, but yeah.
So it's a 2 to 3 day walk to Sweden, but they need supplies, and they can't go back to the farm because they promised him the farm, but they wouldn't.
Right.
So Rains gets the idea, why don't we just steal what we need instead? I'm like, how is that better?
It's not better. It's ridiculous. But, you do what you got to do, I guess. Yeah. So they go back to the farm, which allows them to reuse the same set.
Yeah.
And they find the corpses there. It's like a horror movie thing where they're hidden under hay.
Right where the supplies used to be.
But it's a pretty good twist.
And so the SS arrive with so when they were escaping, one of the soldiers gets shot and another gets captured. Breitling is the one who gets captured.
Yes.
So that's 3 down, 3 soldiers down, and 1 captured. So that's all right. So they're down to 4 men. Actually, that does make sense. Yeah, that counts. That tracks. So there's only 8 of them total.
Okay.
Wait, 8 plus.
What happened to the American? Did he get shot?
He's not yet. No, he's still there.
Okay.
So I think it was 8 plus roll right.
No, that works.
Yeah.
So the SS arrived. They're all hiding.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, "Come out, or I'll kill Brightling." And they don't know what to do.
So they take up firing positions. Rollright and Jensen, or Mac tells Rollright and Jensen to take off, go for Sweden while I cover you, and Jones and Rains are inside the building, and everyone starts firing, and they Jones and Rains meet up with Mac and Mortensen.
Yes. When the bullets are flying, the SS guy, the blonde guy, is like so happy. He's like grinning from ear to ear.
Ugh.
Well, I mean, because you wanted them to expose where they were.
Yeah.
Okay.
He was just so over the top that it wasn't necessary.
So Jones escapes the house.
Mm-hmm.
He says, so he like meets up with Mac.
Yep.
And then it looks like he's going to sacrifice himself.
Yeah. So, what happens is, let's see. Yeah, Jones and Rains, Mortensen, Steiner, and Rains take off while Mac and Jones cover the retreat. Mm-hmm. And as they're covering the retreat, Jones shoots Sid in the chest.
By Sid, you mean Brightling?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. But of course, that's probably the right move.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, no, he felt bad about it, but it's like, yeah, no, because they're all the time that they're trying to get them to come out, they're torturing Brightling, like, kicking him or like hitting him where he's wounded. I was like, oof, yeah, no. So they Jones puts him out of his misery.
Like, you killed Ensign Lynch. There's no way to save him. You didn't even try. Okay,
and so then Jones and Mac make a last stand, maybe? Question mark?
Yes, that is absolutely the correct reaction.
I had to go back because I'm like, wait, did they die? What happened to them? You don't see. Presumably because it's Sean Bean, he's dead.
Yeah, but it can't go on the official Sean Bean death list because you don't actually see him die. You just never see them again, but presumably they do die, yes. Yeah,
so Mortensen and Rains are on the run, and as they're running, Mortensen gets shot,
and then it goes all shaky. It goes all shaky cam.
Yeah. Rains is trying to shoot the SS who are coming after him, but his gun is either jammed or out of bullets.
Yep.
And he's about to kill himself with the commando knife because he'd rather die than be taken captured.
Mm-hmm.
And right as he's about to slit his own throat, Rollright and Jensen come to rescue Rains.
And kill, like, at least 5 SS guys by themselves.
And then we get some nice, beautiful scenery as Rollright, Rains, and Jensen are trekking to Sweden.
Yeah, it's like the ending of The Sound of Music.
Yes. And the movie ends there. I'm like, I thought, for some reason, because like I said, I watched it before, but I fell asleep and I woke up at the end. I thought that they meet up with Jones again. So, I had this vague memory, but I may have just been completely asleep.
Nope, Sean and Mac are gone, never to be seen again.
And it ends with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a very sudden ending.
So
but, there you go.
What do we got for spy fact versus spy fiction?
Okay, well, I hope I did this correctly.
All right.
You might be surprised, but there's not a lot of information about this super secret commando unit.
I mean, they have a Wikipedia page.
Well, they did, but okay, there wasn't that much information on this specifically.
Oh, no.
So I did not read a book this time. Our source is Wikipedia, as you said, Commando Operations in Norway by Simon Orchard, and the Commando Veterans Archive. So the 30 commandos were originally called the Special Intel Unit, and they would do covert infiltrations, and they served in many places, including Norway.
All right.
As far as I can tell, everything about the mission is fictional.
Yeah, that's what I found as well.
They did participate in a failed Dieppe raid in France in 1942 that involved thousands of soldiers, mostly Canadian.
Huh. So here's my thing. So the beginning of the movie is in 1940.
Right.
And then an undetermined period, but after that to when we meet up with Fleming. So we don't know what year this is all taking place in.
Yes.
But
That's
if it's
correct.
more than 2 years, then it makes sense because the 30 Assault Unit wasn't formed until 42.
Yes, they were formed in. Yes, that's correct.
But it doesn't seem like Rains has been at that prison for very long.
Well, I mean, he could have been there for a year, over a
No, because
year.
it's like there. It's like it's opening day. Like it feels like it's his first day there when we meet him there at the prison.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
So,
So it,
so it makes no sense. So this and I mean they kind of get away with it because he says usually the first of a new breed. So maybe it's not officially actually, and they never actually say the words 30 Assault Unit.
I think we're thinking about this more than the writers did, as usual. Well, usually with movies, you try to like to cut corners. So if
Yeah,
we could have a scene where he gets out, but we also establish what life is like in prison at like the in like the same scene, gonna kind of cluster them together, then they're gonna do that.
yeah. Well, anyway, so
So anyway,
timeline wise, it just doesn't work.
okay, but I did find an operation that's similar to what the movie is about,
Oh, okay, all right,
called Operation Musketoon, that took place in September 1942 in Glomfjord, Norway.
all right,
The objective was to destroy a power station, which was providing power to an aluminum plant. It involved two captains, 8 British commandos, and 2 Norwegians who
okay.
left from Scotland on a Free French sub. They hid out at a contact's house and did a surprise attack. When they withdrew, they had to split up, and in the confusion, one of the British was killed, 1 Norwegian wounded, 2 officers wounded,
Mhm.
who were captured with 4 others. The other Norwegian and 3 of the British managed to make their way into Sweden and
Okay.
eventually got back to Britain. But the 2 officers were to become the first to suffer under Hitler's infamous, which they say infamous, I never heard of it, commando order, in which they were shot by firing squad.
Not also not heard of that, huh?
So maybe that's what happened to Mac and Sean Bean.
All right, so I think that's pretty much what we got. I mean, so we talked a little bit about 30 Assault Unit in our previous episode, in the Fleming episode, but the other thing I want to say is that so they were officially disbanded in 1946, but in 2010, the Royal Marines formed 30 Commando Information Exploitation Group, which carries on the legacy and history of 30 Assault Unit. So there is currently still a version of 30 Assault Unit, which I think is pretty cool.
That's nice. It's like the Enterprise in the Navy. I couldn't find much information about what exactly Ian Fleming did with them. Like, there's no
Uh,
indication that he went to Scotland to brief them. It just said he helped form them.
yeah, so it's what was in Fleming was mostly accurate in terms of that he formed the unit, but he gave them assignments, but he never actually went out with them because he was too valuable, as we talked about in that Fleming
Yeah.
episode.
So then I feel like there's a missed opportunity in this movie. I would have liked to see some of that to mention about how they didn't like him. They also left out the Red Indians. Did you notice that?
Yeah,
That's not in the
well,
movie.
that which I appreciated that because it's
It's like
terrible
embarrassing.
name. Yeah.
I don't know. It's part of history. I don't know. Whatever. Okay. So now it is time for favorite quotes. Which cliche in this movie did you like the most?
I like you. I enjoy a good boot camp scene, so I like the let's go for our first heart attack, shall we?
That was great. It also reminded me of Alfred in The Dark Knight Returns.
Hmm.
When he's like, why should we delay your first cardiac arrest? So I had a quote that I liked. I like the drill sergeant ones, as I mentioned. But when the mission starts right after they do a bunch of knife kills, I think it's Mac says, I'll go make some noise, which I thought was like badass.
uh, I did also appreciate when Fleming is like, officially you won't exist. I'm like, which is also one of my favorite cliches.
I mean, it never seems to get old, does it?
Yeah. All right, shall we get into our ratings?
Okay, so as always, our ratings are from 1 to 10 martinis, 1 being an absolutely terrible, the worst spy movie that could ever be, and 10 being an amazing, fabulous spy movie. How do you rate Age of Heroes?
So in the beginning of the movie, I was pretty low there, but we got to the boot camp scene, which I really enjoyed, and I appreciated the fact that they brought up the commando knife because as someone who's read like in Fleming and also in like the movies, they actually feature he uses the commando knife quite a bit, and it's in
Really?
like I have this book, The World of 007. It's one of those like big like coffee table books and about James Bond, and it talks about how his the commando knife, and that's the first where I saw about the Fairbairn Sykes and all that. And there's actually a few Fairbairn Sykes in the Spy Museum mentioned as a specially designed commando knife. So I have an attachment to it, and so that's going to boost me up from a 4 to a 5.
Okay.
It's just like the fact that they actually focused on that. Like of all the things, yes, no, a lot of other things. Like the mission seems to be mostly fictional, but I enjoyed the boot camp scenes. I actually liked when they're infiltrating the place. Other parts of it were kind of dull and boring, but I'm just right in the middle, 5.
All right. So this was something I was wondering from before, is I don't remember James Bond ever using a knife in any of the movies.
He does use one in Die Another Day. He uses one in Tomorrow Never Dies. He uses a lot of throwing knives, actually.
I'm not talking about a knife. I'm talking about this specific commando knife.
Okay, I remember at least in Tomorrow Never Dies and in Die Another Day, he uses the commando knife.
Oh, well, that explains it, because I've seen all the Pierce Brosnan movies once, and those were probably when they first came out. This isn't a good movie by any stretch of the imagination, but it's not truly bad either. So, and then talking about it more, I sort of looking back on it better. I certainly wouldn't recommend it to people, but it is just on the low side of average. I will give it 4 out of 10 martinis.
All right.
But leaning more towards 3 than towards 5.
Well, thank you for joining us. You can find us on social media at The Spy-Fi Guys on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Until next time, I'm Christian.
And I'm Zach.
And we are The Spy-Fi Guys, signing off. Thank you for listening to The Spy-Fi Guys. If you enjoyed our podcast, please be sure to give us a 5-star rating on iTunes. The theme song from this podcast is Mistake the Getaway by Kevin MacLeod from Incompetech.com. Licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 3.0. Films, books, and television shows reviewed by our podcast are the intellectual property of their respective copyright holders, and no infringement is intended.
This is a personal podcast. Any views, statements, or opinions expressed in this podcast are personal and belong solely to the participants. They do not represent those of people, institutions, or organizations that the participants may or may not be associated with in a professional or personal capacity unless explicitly stated. Any views or opinions are not intended to malign any religion, ethnic group, club, organization, company, or individual.
You can find our podcast on social media at The Spy-Fi Guys on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.